How is government likely to respond to the latest threat from the unions? For more on this, we're joined from our Cape Town studios by political analyst Daniel Silke. Daniel, good morning. It really has been a week of tough talk. Government started off by saying there is no way we're going to cave in. We're going to take tough action. We've seen police take a more hardline approach with strikers. Now we have COSATU hitting back, and it's, you know, their power is nothing to be sniffed at, saying, well, if you do that, you're going to see a total shutdown of the economy. Is this all constructive?
Well, I think clearly the strike itself is not in the interests of the South African economy in the medium to longer term, but from COSATU's perspective, of course, well, Zumas is doing what he is mandated to do, and that is to try and elicit as much of a wage increase as possible for his workers. I think the key question to ask here going forward is to what extent is government serious about addressing South Africa's economic plight, and whether or not it gives in to COSATU. This is a question surrounding economic strategy for the future. If it gives in to COSATU's demands on top of very large wage increases in the public sector over the last year or two, it will set the country back in terms of trying to address issues of unemployment, of further economic growth. And I think that's where we're going to see the real battle over the strike. It's not just about the wage increases that COSATU are demanding. It's about the COSATU position versus the government's position on future economic strategy for the country. And there's a clash of civilizations between these two sides.
The bottom line, though, Daniel, is that both of them have very specific power bases. Both of them are, I mean, they're powerful entities, the trade unions and government. You know, where does that leave us? And it really is a question of who will blink first, really.
Yes, indeed. They're very, COSATU certainly also want to ratchet up the rhetoric to prove that they are a very important power broker within the ANC alliance. I think this is also about making COSATU stand out as an important power broker and increasing their vocal voice within the broad debate within the ANC going forward to 2012. So there's a political dynamic as well as the economic dynamic, which is making this a fairly combustible situation. I think that in terms of who's going to blink first, as we've seen in the past, government have come to the party, government have come to the table largely because it's in the interests of Jacob Zuma to keep COSATU on board, to keep them within the alliance, to prevent some sort of major schism within the alliance, especially in advance of local government elections next year, when COSATU and the workers are needed to man the election machinery of the ANC. And I think that's what government's priority will be effectively. The political message will trump the real economic concerns of offering COSATU such large wage increases.
Yeah, I think that's a salient point that you raised there, Daniel. The other interesting thing is Naho coming out directly and attacking the president, and all of this, well, not so veiled threats against the president, that his power and his power base, his authority is being challenged if in fact he doesn't play a more active role in the strike. Questions raised about why he's in China and not here, you know, playing a more central role in trying to come, you know, in trying to be a reconciler in the way these negotiations have gone. It's become personal now. How much do you think this strike is in terms of a risk to the president's power base?
I don't think there's a direct risk to the president's power base. I think it is perhaps unfortunate from Jacob Zuma's point of view that he is out of the country during this very serious attack on the South African economy. The strike certainly is. But at the same time, I think Zuma's presidency and the message of Zuma's presidency really is, again, to keep the various alliance elements together, to keep them in the fold. And that's why I do believe that a settlement will probably be reached, and it may well be a settlement that in the medium term the country cannot afford from an economic point of view, but ultimately the message will be to keep everybody together. Zuma's power itself, I think, is not threatened directly, but Zuma remains a relatively vulnerable president from his outset for personal reasons, the continued infighting within the alliance, and the threat to the alliance in terms of COSATU's own voice and its raising voice as a result of the strike certainly does provide a counter to Jacob Zuma's power.
Right, Daniel, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time this morning. Political analyst Daniel Silke joining us from our Cape Town studios.